Mothman is one of the most beloved demons in Shin Megami Tensei. In fact, he's one ranked as high as 6 in the fan poll across the entire franchise. But here's the thing, behind that cute design is an origin that anything but lighthearted. The legend of Mothman is tied to one of America's darkest moments. This is Lore Wars Game, where we see how well video games adapt legendary figures from myth and folklore. Today's episode, Mothman, the terror that found new life as an adorable mascot. Our story today begins in America in the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966, a place that would soon be known worldwide for a very unusual reason. The roads was empty that night, stretching quiet through the countryside outside Point Pleasant, and two young couples were driving together, and for a while it was just another late drive. Until something unusual caught their attention. In the mirror, two red points of light seemed to follow behind them. At first, it was easy to think it as something ordinary, a reflection or another car still far away. But as the glow drew closer, it became clear that these were not headlights at all. The lights were way too high off the ground, too large, and they seemed to burn with their own intensity. As the glow came closer, the figure started to take its form, looming tall wings spread wide against the dark. Spooked by the sight, they pressed down on the gas, yet the figure kept pace, gliding above the road, slipping silently through the night air. And only when they pushed the car harder did the shape finally fade into the fog. But the red eye did not vanish. Long after the body was gone, the glowing orb still hovers in darkness, following them, refusing to be forgotten. By the next day, the paper had the story and the creature was given a name, Mothman. As word spread, reports multiplied across Mason County. The description settled into a pattern. People spoke of a figure 6 or 7 feet tall with wings stretching nearly 10 feet wide. But what everyone remembered the most were the eyes, round, glowing red, and visible even at the distance, as if they carried their own light. The way it moved only deepened the mystery. Driver claimed it could lift into the air without beating its wings, then glide silently for long distances. On open road, it was said to pace car at 60 miles an hour, keeping up with ease. Others recall a high piercing cry that seemed to cut through the night. Encounter often left people shaken, and witnesses describe sudden wave of fear or paralysis as if the creature presence carried weight. Some even reported missing pets, usually dogs that vanished on the very same night those red eyes were seen in the trees. A few also spoke of vivid nightmares or an unshakable sense of dread that lingered long after the sighting. However, not everyone was convinced. Local firemen suggested it was just a massive bird, while county officials pointed to sandhill cranes or herons from the nearby ponds. Still, those who believe insist that no ordinary bird could glide without sound, chase down cars, or leave behind such a trail of fears. The very next year, the legend took an even darker turn when Point Pleasant was struck by real tragedy. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge, an important link between Point Pleasant and Ohio, collapsed during rush hour. In less than a minute, the entire structure fell into the icy Ohio River, taking 46 lives. Federal investigations later gave a clear explanation. A single eye bar in the suspension chain had fractured after years of stress and corrosion. The bridge collapsed because the metal failed. But outside the report, people began to draw their own conclusion. Sighting of Mothman has peaked in the year leading up to the disaster, and then seemed to fade almost immediately afterward. To many, that felt less like coincidence and more like a warning. Writers soon built on this idea. In their account, Mothman became a harbinger of disaster, its red eyes and omens of what was coming. By the 1970s, books spread this version of the story across the country, and decades later, a major theme carried it to an even wider audiences.
He was right here. All I could see were these two red eyes.
I met him. You met him. He said, "Do not be afraid."
That said, over time the figure changed from something frightening into a symbol of the town itself. By the early 2000s, Point Pleasant has fully embraced the legend. A metallic statue of Mothman was installed downtown, and the museum opened its door with eyewitness sketches, newspaper clipping, and memorabilia on display. The town even launched an annual festival drawing thousands of visitors every year. So what has once a story of dread had turned into a source of pride, an identity that supported local culture and economy. Mothman was now no longer just a terrifying presence on the dark road. It had become a lasting emblem showing how folklore can evolve from fear into heritage. When it comes to the games, Mothman design draw loosely from those early sightings. The red eyes are always front and center, glowing just as they were described by the couples on the back road. His wing also glide often outward like a bird rather than flutterings like a moth. What stands out though is the size. Instead of towering 6 to 7 foot figure described in Point Pleasance, the game version is small, mascot-like and cute. This shift makes him feel more approachable, and over time that helped Mothman become one of the most beloved demons in the Shin Megami Tensei series. In fact, in a 2017 Japanese fan poll, he was voted the 6th most popular demon across the entire franchise, a remarkable spot considering hundreds of demons in the roster. That popularity also carry over into his merchandise. Because of his raw and cute design, Mothman often appear alongside characters like Jack Frost on figures, plushes, and other collectibles. It's a surprise outcome for a creature that began as a terrifying local legend, but one that shows how well adaptation resonates with fans. That said, the design did somewhat resemble the sketch drawn by the two couple from the first sighting. The original sketch showed a rounded body framed by wide wings and a pair of round eyes, detail that you can clearly see in the Atlus version. Now, the connection to the folklore doesn't end with appearance. In Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne and Persona 3, Mothman also carry ability that directly reflect his legend. The first is Panic Voice, which inflict panic on all foes, a clear nod to the sudden wave of fears or paralysis described by witnesses. The second is Evil Gaze, an unusual skill that reduces a target HP to just 1. And while I know that this is not a literal translation, it reflects the way people describe Mothman glowing red eyes, overpowering, piercing, and difficult to endure. Now that you heard the lore and the connection, it's time for the verdicts. For me, the big things is how the games kept the core trait, the glowing red eyes, the silent gliding, and even those early skills tied to fear and paralysis. But at the same time, they chunk these towering figures into something small and mascot-like. What I find the most interesting though, if you think about it, is how this mirrors the legend itself. In Point Presence, Mothman began as something people fear, but over time the town embraced him as a symbol of identities and pride. And just like that, Atlus kept many of his recognizable features, but deliberately made him small and lovable. To me, that's really show how times and perspective can turn even the most unsettling creature into a beloved one. Verdicts, faithful tribute. As usual, thanks to all of our channel members for supporting the series. And as always, if you like early access to future videos, you can become a member today. Otherwise, I'll see you next time when lore and games meet.